The Senate chamber was a battlefield of words that day, the air thick with tension as Senator Elizabeth Warren rose to her feet, her voice cutting through the murmurs like a sharpened blade. With a steely glare fixed on Senator John Kennedy of Louisiana, she launched into a scathing attack, her words dripping with intent to dismantle his reputation in front of the nation. "Senator Kennedy," she began, her tone laced with disdain, "your record on health care is a disgrace, a patchwork of empty promises that leaves the most vulnerable Americans to suffer. How can you sleep at night knowing your votes have cost lives?" The room fell silent, the weight of her accusation hanging heavily as cameras zoomed in on Kennedy's weathered face, expecting a retreat or a stammered defense. But what came next would turn the tables in a way no one could have predicted. Kennedy, a man known for his folksy charm and sharp wit, leaned back in his chair, adjusting his glasses with a slow, deliberate motion. His gray hair caught the light as he took a deep breath, his eyes narrowing with a mix of resolve and pain. Growing up in rural Louisiana, Kennedy had seen hardship firsthand. His father, a struggling farmer, had worked himself to the bone to keep food on the table after a devastating flood wiped out their crops. His mother, a nurse, had often treated patients with little more than hope and a prayer, unable to afford the medicines they needed. Those memories fueled his political career, a quiet determination to serve the forgotten. Yet, here he was, being painted as the villain by a colleague who, in his eyes, wielded power with a coldness he couldn't fathom. Warren's attack wasn't new. She had been relentless in committee hearings, questioning his every move with a prosecutorial zeal that left little room for dialogue. This time, though, she had struck a personal chord, referencing a recent vote where Kennedy had opposed a sweeping health care bill, arguing it favored corporate interests over rural communities. The media had pounced, labeling him heartless, and the backlash had reached his constituents. Letters flooded his office, some supportive, many furious, while his own staff urged him to fight back. But Kennedy, a man of deep faith and deeper scars, had stayed silent, wrestling with the challenge of defending his principles without losing his humanity. That silence ended now. Rising to his feet, Kennedy's voice was steady but carried an undercurrent of emotion. "Senator Warren," he began, pausing to let the room settle, "I reckon you've got a knack for pointing fingers, but let me tell you a story you might not know." He recounted his childhood, the nights his family went hungry, the days his mother stitched up wounds with threadbare supplies. "I've seen folks die waiting for care not because of a vote, but because the system's broken, and that bill you championed, it'd have left my people in the dust while lining the pockets of big pharma." The room buzzed, but Kennedy wasn't done. His eyes glistened as he continued, "I don't sleep easy some nights, ma'am, because I carry every one of those faces with me. But I'd rather fight for a fix that works for all than push a quick fix that fails the many." The comeback stunned Warren, her confident posture faltering as she searched for a rebuttal. The audience, a mix of senators, aides, and journalists, leaned forward, captivated by the raw honesty unfolding before them. Kennedy's words weren't just a defense, they were a plea, a reflection of a man torn between duty and the weight of his past. Warren, a Harvard-educated law professor turned senator, had built her career on advocating for the disenfranchised, but her approach often lacked the personal touch Kennedy now wielded like a shield. She opened her mouth to respond, but the chair called for a recess, leaving her challenge unresolved. In the days that followed, the exchange ignited a firestorm. Social media erupted with clips of Kennedy's speech, his emotional delivery resonating, with viewers who saw their own struggles mirrored in his story. Warren faced criticism not just for her attack, but for the disconnect it revealed. Her policies, while well-intentioned, often overlooked the practical realities of rural America. Kennedy, meanwhile, grappled with the sudden spotlight. His staff warned him of the political risks, urging him to capitalize on the moment with a media blitz. But Kennedy retreated to his office, poring over healthcare data, determined to propose a solution that honored his roots. The challenge deepened when a constituent, an elderly woman named Clara from Baton Rouge, reached out. Clara's son had died of a treatable condition because he couldn't afford the medication, a story eerily similar to Kennedy's past. She didn't blame him, but her grief pierced his resolve. "I just want someone to fix this," she wrote, her shaky handwriting a silent cry. Kennedy invited her to Washington, and together they met with healthcare experts, crafting a bipartisan amendment to the stalled bill. It was a grueling process, marked by late nights and heated debates, with Warren initially resistant but eventually drawn into the dialogue by Clara's presence. The resolution came on a crisp October morning as the Senate voted on the amended bill. Kennedy stood beside Clara, her frail hand clutching his arm, while Warren, softened by the experience, offered a nod of acknowledgement. The bill passed narrowly, a compromise that expanded rural health care access without the corporate loopholes Kennedy had feared. The victory was bittersweet. Clara's tears were for her lost son as much as for the hope ahead, but it marked a turning point. Kennedy's comeback hadn't just humiliated Warren, it had humanized him, bridging divides with a story of struggle and redemption. As the cameras rolled and the senators dispersed, Kennedy lingered, looking out over the Capitol. "This ain't about winning or losing," he murmured to Clara. "It's about remembering who we're fighting for." The message spread, inspiring a nation weary of partisan bickering. People saw in Kennedy a leader who carried his past as a strength, and in Warren, a reminder that even the strongest voices could learn from listening. The story of that day became a testament to the power of empathy, proving that true change begins when we see each other's humanity and fight for it together.